Welcome everyone to today's video with the Dimitrov-Boulay piano duo. My name is Dimitri Dimitrov.
And my name is Elvira Boulay.
And in today's video, we want to address one of the many questions that we kept getting. And that question is, can you give us something like a routine, something like tips for beginners that would help a beginner improve quicker, practice more efficiently, etc.?
It's not really possible to give a routine because a routine should also be tailored to the individual. So it should be tailored to the student. For example, if I name an example, my routine includes a lot more metronome work than Dimitar's routine. You need to see what are your weaker points, what are your stronger points, and have a routine personally suitable to you. But what we can do is we can give 3 general tips of things that you cannot miss in your routine, things that should always be included. 3 things we will give you that should be included in anybody's beginner's routine.
What's our first point?
So the first point that has to be included in anybody's beginner's routine is note reading practice. We see so many students as beginners that don't put enough effort into reading notes, and once they are able to play a little bit better, they become a little bit more skilled at piano playing, their note reading is still very much behind and they suffer for this. So the first thing is that really you have to train those notes. Now I have a great exercise for you that you should actually be doing every day if it's possible. And that is practicing your hands separately and naming the notes while you're playing it.
Why don't we
I'm just going to show that for you. Yeah.
And one of the points I want to make before Elvira starts is one of the mistakes you're probably making is Elvira is going to choose a very simple piece. Usually what happens, people want to play much more difficult pieces than they can, and that also impedes their progress. So this is perhaps something useful, that you really choose pieces that are appropriate, that are suitable to your level. Of course, a little challenge is good, but don't pick pieces that are way above your level because you will get the wrong feedback. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that.
Yes, and anybody that wants to know what this particular piece is from, it's from the Faber Classical Repertoire Preparation. I will put the exact name of the book down below. Okay, so what I want you to do as a note reading exercise is I want you to take separate hands and I want you to calmly and slowly play the notes, and while you're playing them, I want you to name them. So we're going to start with the right hand. The first note is just take as much time as you need in order to figure out what note it is. If you need to count the note out, count the note out. So the note is the C, and we're going to play it and say at the same time that it's the C. So C, next one, E, G, E, and then F, E, D, and take enough time. For example, you don't remember that this was a G, take enough time, count it out again. Don't just start playing, don't start playing without naming the notes. Now I have to warn you that students really dislike this exercise because it takes a lot of effort. You will feel that, of course, I'm demonstrating it to you, it seems so easy, but when you're going to try to do it and your note reading skills are just not good yet, you will see how difficult it is to play and at the same time name the notes. However, even though students don't like it, they very rarely make mistakes. They almost always play, let's say 99% of the notes they play correct when they do this exercise.
Because it makes you think.
Because they have to think and name the notes. It's very rare that they would play a wrong note. Whereas if I ask them just to practice the right hand separately, it's always chock full of mistakes, chock full of wrong notes. So even though, if you're self-taught, you're going to have to give yourself a kick up the butt to do this. You have to be disciplined to do this, but it works so well.
Otherwise, what we see very often is just guesswork. So people would just play a piece. That doesn't have to be this. This is just an example. They would play a piece and they would just, instead of saying this is the C and think before they play it, they would just... And that isn't going to get you anywhere. So that's a wonderful first tip for today for beginners. And like I said in the beginning of the video, this can apply as well to intermediate piano players. Of course, not with such pieces. They're already more advanced, but we see that intermediate people with intermediate level, they also have problem reading notes. And so you can do that as well to name a few notes, because then if you do it a few times like if you do it a few times a week even, or if you do it every day, even 5 minutes, you will notice an enormous progress.
Make sure you do the same thing with the left hand. And if you're not studying a new piece every day, this is also something you can do as a sight reading exercise as well. Just get those 5 minutes of note naming, even if it's not a piece that you want to play or practice.
I'm impatient for the second tip.
Okay, let's get to the second tip. So the second tip is something that you probably have heard any piano teacher say. You've heard us say it before if you are subscribed and if you follow us regularly, and that is practice slow.
Now, perhaps what would be a very good question to answer is, me as a student, I would like to know, why is slow practice important?
Slow practice is important because you have to take the time to think and be conscious. Exactly what Dimitar was mentioning. We see a lot of guesswork going on. You don't learn from guesswork, because if you accidentally guess the right note, you didn't learn anything from that. Slow, it allows you to give yourself time to practice. Now, we say this so often because nobody does it. And as a student, I think it is also very difficult to judge what tempo is slow. I have very often that I tell my students, they're playing a certain tempo. I tell them, okay, now let's do it once slow. And they start in exactly the same tempo. So obviously the awareness of tempo is something that you need to develop. I have a small trick for that in order to know if you are practicing slow enough. It's very easy. If you are in a short piece making more than one mistake, you are practicing too fast. It's not a slow tempo that you're practicing in. If you truly are practicing slow, you will avoid making mistakes. So that's a small trick. You're making too many mistakes, I would say in a short piece more than one, that's too many. Slow down. You are not practicing slow enough.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good thing, because the way I think about mistakes is, the more mistakes you're making, the faster you're practicing, so your tempo is not suitable. The slower you practice, or the more suitable tempo you have, the less mistakes you're going to make. So you can follow those guidelines. That's a great tip for beginner and for intermediate as well.
Absolutely.
What's our third tip?
So our third tip is, don't be so easily satisfied. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Repetition should be at the basis of any practice routine.
You can apply a repetition to a whole piece, but you can apply a repetition to sections of a piece, because when you have a longer piece, it becomes more difficult, so it's more challenging to play. You're going to feel more insecure. So in order to improve that, and in order for you to feel more secure and more stable and more confident, you have to repeat smaller sections. When you repeat smaller sections, what you can do something very practical is set a goal for yourself to repeat those sections several times without mistake. It can be, I would recommend the minimum amount of repetitions has to be 3. It can be 5, it can be 7, 10, whatever you want, whatever works for you. However ambitious you are, the more times you can repeat something without a mistake, the better and the faster you are going to be in progressing further with your skills. So repetitions are extremely important. One repetition is just, you may play it right, but you might as well hit the jackpot and just that repetition to be great. That doesn't mean that your second repetition is going to be fine. And that's why repetitions are super important.
And just to add a little something for beginners or intermediates as well, an hesitation, something that you need more time, something that doesn't go smooth, is a mistake as well.
That's a very good, that's a very good tip, because in the beginning it's obvious mistakes, but the better you become, you're going to start sometimes hesitating, and we advise that to be considered as a mistake, because if you can clean that out, if you can iron it out without hesitations, you're going to get even better. Anyway, these are our tips for today. I just wanted to add that the better you are at applying those things and the better foundation you build as a beginner, the better you will become when you are an intermediate piano player. And of course that sounds logical, but you have to remember that most of you want to play more advanced pieces, intermediate advanced pieces. And if you want to enjoy those pieces, because I'm sure that when you're honest with yourself, when you're playing, you're either satisfied or not satisfied with the way you play. So to ensure that, you have to have a very good foundation. And let's say that you don't have a good foundation, then how you improve that, you miss that and you have some gaps. The way to improve that is simply to apply the tips that we are giving you, because that's going to fill all the gaps that you have, and you will be able to progress in a much, better and stable way. So I wanted, just before we end the video, to sum up the 3 points that we had. The first was
note reading.
Note reading. Extremely important if you want to learn pieces easier. Number 2 was practicing slow, right? Practicing slow is extremely important because it ensures that you will play better, more stable, with the right knowledge, more conscious, etc. So many benefits of slow practice. And the third was?
Don't be easily satisfied. Repeat, repeat, repeat.
Without repetitions, you can't get better. Don't rely on luck from one repetition and hoping that next time it will be good again.
One of my favorite videos actually that we made, one of my favorite subjects that we made it on, is about repetition. So if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out here.
Absolutely. Check it out and watch more videos from us. That's very good for us. Thank you. Anyway, joke aside, first of all, like always, thank you everyone. We reached 500 subscribers and we're very proud and very happy because we have a nice community of people who actually enjoy watching our videos. So thank you everyone for clicking that subscribe button. And if you haven't done so, shame on you. You have to join us as well. Facebook and Instagram is the place to be if you want to hear us play. We started uploading some shorts on YouTube, but not everyone knows yet how to use those, I think. But on Facebook and Instagram you can hear us as well, and YouTube shorts, like I mentioned, you hear us play there. You'll hear my composing, etc. So yeah, follow us there, subscribe here if you haven't done so. For us, recording this video, as always, was a great pleasure. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.